Hello students, welcome back to JCE Connect series of lectures. So in this particular lecture, I'll be deriving a expression for depth of hydraulic jump. In previous uh, class, we have seen definition of hydraulic jump and the non-uniform flow, classification of hydraulic jump, how the hydraulic jump are been classified based on the Froude number. So you have seen the previous class the hydraulic jump. So this is the dam and this is the bed of the channel, or you can say it is a bed of the river, and the flow is being taking place in this direction. The water is flowing and approaching the dam. So before approaching the dam, or you can say it is any obstacle present across the flow, before approaching any obstacle or obstruction, the flow condition was uniform, and as it approaches any obstruction, the flow starts gradually varying, and then that flow we call as a gradually varied flow. The moment it passing over the crust of the dam like this, when it falls down from the crust of the dam, so here it will be having a huge kinetic energy, and we can say it is an unstable condition of flow. When the flow takes from the unstable conditions to stable condition, when it falls down and meets the flat surface, the flow becomes stable here. So here over the crust or the spillway of the dam, the flow condition is unstable. When it meets the flat surface, it becomes stable. When then we can say it is from unstable conditions to stable condition. When the flow takes place, then the hydraulic jump will takes place, or you can say from the supercritical flow to subcritical flow. From the supercritical flow to subcritical flow. For a supercritical flow, the Froude number will be uh, more than 1, and when it meets subcritical depth, then the Froude number will be less than 1. So when the flow takes from supercritical to subcritical, the hydraulic jump will takes place in this condition. Now we are going to derive what is the uh, depth for hydraulic jump, and we get for the same discharge, constant discharge, we get two different depths, one in supercritical condition and one in subcritical condition, and these two depths are being called as sequent depths or conjugate depths, or you can call it as a alternate depths. So what is the relation between these two depths, y1 and y2, we are going to derive, and also we are going to derive what is the length of the jump and how much energy is being uh, uh, lost here, dissipating here. That also we are going to derive, that is the energy loss during hydraulic jump. That is also we are going to derive in this particular lecture. I hope you have understood what we mean by hydraulic jump. So keeping that in mind, so we'll be deriving the equations for conjugate depths and all. So in this particular lecture, I have written here expression for depth of hydraulic jump. So we are going to derive the depth of hydraulic jump and the relation between y1 and y2. Here I have shown the two depths. So let us consider a horizontal rectangular channel in which a supercritical flow of depth y1. So this y1 represent the supercritical depth. This depth is below yc. That is critical depth. Supercritical flow of depth y1, which is less than yc, meets a subcritical flow depth. This is y2. Subcritical flow depth y2, which is greater than yc, and this is this all shown in a figure. Then the hydraulic jump occurs over a length lj. That is, we can mark this length from this section 1 to section 2. This is the length of jump. The hydraulic jump occurs over a length lj. Then the two depths y1 and y2 are called sequent depths. These two depths y1 and y2 are called as the sequent depths. Then the relation between the two can be established here. Okay, so we have considered the rectangular channel here, rectangular channel. So I'll draw here rectangular channel. You can see here, you can draw a rectangular channel of width b. the constant width, and the discharge passing also constant q. This is the depth of flow, and the q can be passed in two different depths. The same q can be passed in two depths. We have seen this particular case while drawing the specific energy curve. The curve says living at a critical point, wherever you take the points on the curve, the discharge can be passed in two alternate depths. One depth we get in a subcritical region, and one depth we get in a supercritical region, but the discharge will be remains same. So now let us take the rectangular channel section of width b and one depth in a supercritical condition, that is y1, other depth in subcritical condition, that is y2. Then we can also calculate the specific energy at 1, that is specific energy at 1 will be E1. Here it is written, then E1 can be written as y1 plus v1 square by 2g. So here y1 I have marked here, and the velocity head will be this much is a velocity head. So lower the depth, higher the velocity. And one more we can write here, specific energy at 2 will be y2 plus v2 square by 2g. y2 plus v2 square by 2g. Higher the depth, lower is the velocity. If the depth is high, the velocity will be lower. As we know, the velocity is inversely proportional to the depth of flow. So higher the depth, lower the velocity, lower the depth, higher the velocity. So the same discharge can be passed in two different depths, because having a lower depth, higher velocity, having higher depth, lower velocity. Now we can mark the energy line here. So the energy line can be marked, can mark here. So this is the energy at 1 and this is energy at 2. You get energy will be like this. This is the energy, okay, and this much is energy loss, EL. This energy loss is because of hydraulic jump. Because of hydraulic jump, that also we are going to find. So when the hydraulic jump will takes place, when the flow changing from supercritical to subcritical, and here it represents supercritical condition. This side, that is at section 1 the flow is supercritical, and at section 2 the flow is subcritical. Then the flow is changing from supercritical to subcritical, the hydraulic jump will takes place, and then the depth gradually increases in this way. It will increases like this. Then here, when the jump takes place, the water starts whirling, then the eddies will be forming like this. Because of this one, there will be a loss. There will be a loss in the energy. How much that loss is being taking place, that we are going to derive. Also, what is the relation between y1 and y2, we are going to derive in this particular lecture. I hope you understood this particular figure. So I have considered the rectangular channel. I have considered the rectangular channel of width b and depth y, and the discharge is passing q, and this discharge can be passed in two different depths, that is y1 and y2. One depth will be lying in a supercritical region and another depth is lying in subcritical region, and the hydraulic jump is being taking place when the flow is taking from supercritical flow to subcritical, that is from lower depth to higher depth. Then you can also call it as a unstable conditions to stable condition. Depth is low, velocity is high. Depth is high, velocity is low. So we can pass the same discharge in two different depths. Okay, so with this, so we'll be deriving a equation, that is a relation between y1 and y2, that is the expression for depth of hydraulic jump. This expression is very important for the examination point of view. Many a times this question is been asked for 10 to 15 marks. Derive an expression for depth for hydraulic jump, or derive the relation between uh, two depths, that is y1 and y2, and derive the expression for conjugate depth in hydraulic jump. They may ask like this. Then these y1 and y2 are called as a conjugate depths or alternative depths, or they are also called as a sequent depths. Okay, so here consider a horizontal rectangular channel in which a supercritical flow of depth y1, that is less than yc, meets a subcritical depth y2 which is greater than yc, as shown in the figure. The hydraulic jump occurs over a length Lj, that is shown here, over the length Lj. The two depths y1 and y2 are called as sequent depths. Then the relation between the two can be established. So by here we are using the momentum principle. So by using that momentum principle, the relation can be established here. So before deriving the depth for hydraulic jump, so some of the assumptions are to be made. And what are those assumptions to make? Here, before deriving an expression for the depth of hydraulic jump, the following assumptions are to be made. So what are the assumptions to be made? The first assumption is, it is assumed that the channel is horizontal and has a very mild slope, so that the component of weight of liquid in the direction of flow is negligible. So this, before deriving any equations, certain assumptions to be made. So here some of the assumptions are made, that is the channel is horizontal and have a very mild slope, hence the component of weight of liquid in the direction of flow is negligible. That is the first assumption. Then second assumption is made, it is assumed that the jump takes place in a very short distance of the channel, so that the frictional losses are negligible. Means if you look at this figure, from here to here the length is very short, and in very short length and very short interval the jump is being taking place, hence there is no friction losses at all here. Okay, so that is also one assumption made here. It is assumed that the jump takes place in a very short distance of the channel, so that the frictional losses are negligible. And the third assumptions made here, it is assumed that the flow before the jump and after the jump is uniform and one directional. Means before reaching the subcritical depth, the flow was uniform here. Here the flow was uniform. It was uniform before the jump, and after jump again the flows will flowing with same depth, continues with the same depth. So that is assumptions. The flow before the jump and after the jump will be having uniform flow. So that is one assumption is made here. It is assumed that the flow before the jump and after the jump is uniform and one directional. Then the fourth assumption made here, it is assumed that the pressure distribution is hydrostatic before and after the jump. So whatever the pressure is being acting at section 1, here this is hydrostatic. Okay. Here and here, this is hydrostatic. So you can mark here the pressure at 1 and the pressure at 2. This you can call it as a P2 and this one is a P1. The pressure is hydrostatic pressure. That is one assumption. And next, the fifth assumption is made. It is assumed that the velocity distribution before and after the jump is uniform, so that alpha equal to beta equal to 1, where alpha and beta are the velocity and momentum correction factor. If the velocity is not uniform, then there should be some correction factor to be taken. But in this case, so since the it is been assuming uniform velocity distribution. There is no need to take any correction factor, hence alpha equal to beta equal to 1. It is assumed that the velocity distribution before and after the jump is uniform, so that the alpha equal to beta equal to 1. It means here, as I said, the flow before the jump was uniform, and also the flow after the jump is also uniform. So the velocity distribution will, if you take, that will be a uniform, and there is no need to take any correction factors. So these are the 5 assumptions to be made before deriving the equations. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 assumptions. Okay. So remember these 5 assumptions. Okay. Now let us derive the equation. So to derive the equation, we are applying the momentum principle here. So applying momentum equation in the direction of flow, or to apply the momentum equation in the direction of flow. So here we need to apply the momentum equation in this direction. So what is flowing in this direction, we have to apply momentum equation in this direction. The force is applying, the force is acting in this direction. To apply momentum equations. So what is that? Summation of Fx. So sum of all the forces in x direction. So when the force is acting, what happens? The rate of change of momentum in the direction of force. Summation of Fx is nothing but rate of change of momentum in the direction of force. When this force is acting in x direction, there will be a change in the momentum of the fluid. What the momentum principle says, you studied this momentum principle at in mechanics or in a fluid mechanics. What the momentum principle says, the net force acting on a mass of fluid must be equal to the rate of change of momentum. When the net force is acting on a mass of fluid which is equal to the rate of change of momentum. So what do you mean by rate of change of momentum? The rate of change of momentum or a linear momentum is nothing but mass flow rate into velocity. Mass, because momentum is equal to what? Mass into velocity. That is mass flow rate into change in velocity. Then the mass flow rate can be written as density into volume. Mass flow rate is density into volume flow rate. Then final velocity minus initial velocity, V2 minus V1. Okay. Because we know the density equal to what? Density equal to mass by volume. But what is mass? Mass can be written density into volume. But we want mass per second, that is mass flow rate. With respect to time we want, then again the density of the fluid remains constant, volume by time. Then the volume by time is nothing but what? Rho into Q. This is called mass flow rate. That is only here written, rho into Q, V2 minus V1. V2 is the final velocity minus initial velocity, or you can write V1 minus V2. Okay. So this is the rate of change of linear momentum. I hope you understood this one. We are applying a momentum principle here for the calculation. Then when you apply momentum, summation of Fx to be applied, sum of forces acting in the direction of flow. What are the forces acting in the direction of flow here? One force is acting P1 in the direction of flow, and the other force is acting P2. So one is P1 in the direction, this is the x direction. One force is acting in x direction, P1, other force is acting opposite to the direction of flow. So you can write, therefore you can write P1 minus P2 is equal to rho Q V2 minus V1. Then what is P1? P1 is hydrostatic pressure force at section 1. Then P1 can be written as gamma A x bar. This is a hydrostatic pressure force. gamma A into x bar. Okay, this is the formula you have studied in the fluid mechanics, how this hydrostatic force will come, gamma A x bar. Then gamma A is area of rectangular channel, B into y1, B into y1. So here we have taken a rectangular channel section, B into depth y1 at this section 1, B into y1, and here is the hydrostatic pressure force gamma A x bar. Then B into y1, then that is here into, since it is a rectangular channel section of depth y1, the centroid will be y1 by 2. Then we can write gamma B y1 square by 2 at section 1. Similarly, P2, what P2 represents? P2 will be hydrostatic pressure force at section 2. Then P2 can be written gamma, again same formula, then the gamma B into y2 into y2 by 2, then can be written gamma B y2 square by 2. Hope you understood this one. This formula, I remember, P, this is the pressure force at 1, this is the pressure force at 2. Gamma A x bar, that is gamma B into y1, because breadth will be the same, rectangular channel, only variable is what? Depth. Both the sections, gamma B into y1 by 2, we get gamma B y1 square by 2. Then at 2, again hydrostatic pressure force at section 2 to gamma A x bar, gamma B y2 into y2 by 2, gamma B y2 square by 2 we get. Okay, then the next is where B represents. What do you mean by B? Where B is bottom width of rectangular channel. Bottom width of rectangular channel. Then what is Q? Q is discharge, which is A into V, and which can be written area B into y1 into y1. This is at section 1. The same can be written B into y2 into v2. The same discharge is passing same at both the section. So B into y1 into v1, B into y2 into v2. Where v1 is velocity at section 1. Velocity at section 1, and that can also be written as v1 equal to q divided by b into y1. But what is q by b? This one. This will be discharge per unit width, which can be written as small q. You have seen this is the discharge per unit width, q by y1. Then v2 is what? Velocity at section 2. v2. Velocity at section 2. Again it can be written as q divided by b into y2. Then again this is q by b is discharge per unit width, can be written as q by y2. Then where small q represents discharge per unit width, discharge per unit width, or you can call it as a unit discharge. This is called as a unit discharge. Therefore, Q equal to Q by B. Then substituting these all in equation number 1 in this equation. So let us call this equation number 1. Substituting all the values in this equation number 1. So when I substitute all the values in this equation number 1, that is substituting all in equation 1, what do we get? Gamma p y1 square divided by 2 minus gamma b y2 square by 2 is equal to rho into qb, then q by y2 one term minus q by y1. You'll get this term like this. Simplify this one, take gamma b by 2 out, then you will get y1 square minus y2 square one term, then you will get rho q b q by y2 minus q by y1. Then this rho is nothing but, sorry, gamma is nothing but rho into g b divided by 2, then y1 square minus y2 square equal to rho qb q by y2 minus q by y1. Then rho get cancels, b get cancels, you will get y1 square minus y2 square is equal to, take 2 this side, we'll get 2q square divided by g, then you get, the q is been taken out, 1 by y2 minus 1 by y1. Then this can be written a plus b, a minus b, a square minus b square form. So we can write y1 plus y2 one term, then y1 minus y2, then equal to 2q square by g, then we can write y1 minus y2 divided by y1 into y2. Just simplifying, this get cancels and this get cancels, you will get y1 plus y2 is equal to 2q square divided by g y1 y2. This is one term. Further simplifying further, this one simplify further, remember this one, then further you have to simplify this one. If you simplify further this one, what do you get? Just to simplify this one further, if I simplify that one, I'll get this one. Simplify this one, so y2 square if I simplify this one, y2 square plus y1 y2 minus 2q square divided by g y1 is equal to 0. If you simplify this one, you will get this one. You can take this y1 y2 this side, then you will get this equation. Then this is a quadratic equation. This is a quadratic equation this is quadratic equation, that is in this form it is ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0. So So in this format, then the x can be written, you know this one quadratic equation, this x is minus b plus or minus root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. In this format it is. Okay, then solve y2. Then y2 you get, when you solve y2, this quadratic equation is solve it. This is in this format, ax square plus bx plus c. So you solve y2 here. So when we solve y2, we get y2 equal to minus y1 plus or minus root of y1 square plus 4 times of 2q square divided by gy1 whole divided by 2. We get this one. Then we get half into bracket minus y1 plus or minus root of, simplify this one, we get 1 plus 8q square divided by g